Yeah, what is going on, man? How are you?
Good, thanks, man. How are you?
Good. Doing very well. Did you? I don't want to embarrass you, but I see you a lot, and it looks like you might have gotten a haircut.
I did. I got a well-deserved fucking haircut. So yeah, it feels weird.
Hey,
And I can actually not wear it
woo!
now without looking like a weirdo.
Dude, you look like a fresh, like 50s gentleman right now. I'm loving it. That is a nice, stylish do, man.
Thanks, man. Thanks.
And of course, as always, Crumbs has a bong, and you've got a paintbrush.
Always, man. We're consistent. We're always consistent.
My goodness. Now, how is the weekend going, man? I know that we actually we just had a video where you and I were chatting, but I felt like, out of 4 hours out of that video, I felt there was a lot there that people probably didn't get to see that I felt, they need to see like the real Tiddy Bean and get a real good taste of that.
Cool, cool.
Oh,
There was. It was a long, long chat. So I think you did it pretty well to like condense it down. But yeah, there's also a whole lot of like bullshit talk in there. It's just like talking absolute shit. So which people don't necessarily be interested in.
so what I would actually say was part of the issue with editing that, and this happens sometimes when I'm editing. What'll happen is the rendering will take so long that I've got to look at the sound files and try and see with what I'm hearing if I've made the chop in
Yeah.
the right place. Um, I'm not gonna be a weirdo here, but just really quickly, Pocket Toyco dropped in, and he's one of the homies. I'm sure you guys actually noticed that he had a drop today, but he's gonna push the drop off a little bit because Instagram was being a big old bully, and I like celebrating those who celebrate toys because I celebrate toys. B to the J, B to the J. If you get a chance, you should go check out a bunch of his work because I think he's actually quite the admirer of Tiddy Bean Toys as well.
Yeah, he's got quite the collection. Yeah, I think he might have also mentioned that I was one of his first bootleg choice purchases, which is pretty cool considering the collection that he's got now. Like it shits all over my like bootleg toy collection, designer, artist, toy artist, collection. And yeah, it's wild, and the photos that he takes as well are fucking crazy. It's awesome.
Man, if anything, it's funny because he definitely posts so much content. He's got such a beautiful collection that no matter what, there's always in toy collectors that little voice in the back of your brain that's like, I want that.
Yeah.
I want it. I want that. So there's always that little green-eyed monster when you see the dope posts of some of the toys. But you kind of silence back that green-eyed monster as you're like, no, I'm stoked. I'm stoked. I'm really happy and proud for the homies that got the toys. But I
Yeah.
want it.
Yeah, there's so many pieces. I'm like, damn, how? But like, or like, and there's like week by week, there's like new pieces. It's awesome. It's so cool to watch a collection like that just like grow with some really good pieces and some really varied artists as well. So yeah, it's rad. So cool. Beta today.
And I'm going to actually use him as a bit of a segue because B to the J, if you don't mind, I'm going to wait until you say it's okay. But I might have a piece that might have come in between right now and the unboxing that I like forced Titty to make for me, especially because yeah, it might have been that was a really dope figure. And Colin C is actually joining in. He's actually a big fan of yours too. Man,
Colin, what's
you
happening?
have certain dudes that they love Titty Bean.
They do. They're just loyal. They're awesome. They're just really cool bunch of sort of dudes. The regular. I know it sounds like really flippant, just sort of say, oh, just the regular customers, but they're unreal supporters and not just through sort of like buying the figures, but also just like messages and checking in and just sort of saying that's fucking cool. It's really nice. It's really super encouraging. That's for sure. To say the very least.
Well, I would even actually say probably one of the most important things you can do in the toy community, art community, any community is just like boost that morale.
Yeah.
The more that you can have more and more homies trying to boost the morale, the more that it feels like you're not just doing it for nothing.
Yeah. Exactly. That's it.
It's that nice return. So yeah, I'm gonna take a quick second because B to the J actually you grabbed a friggin' Maintenance Jones. Now, anybody here who's been to Tiddy Bean's store, if you've seen Maintenance Jones is a hilarious looking character, but also oddly menacing and creepy as all heck. And I think we were all kind of curious, like how to feel about Maintenance Jones for a while. And then somebody, somebody might have bought the Maintenance Jones. And you know what? I even love his response when I was like, "It was you?" And he was like, "Well, dude, it sat there for a while." It was like, yeah, I know that. I was waiting.
It was yeah, it was a funny character because it just started as a bit of a random kit bash and didn't really. I can't remember where it started. I think I found the torso first and was like, "Oh, cool! I've got a nice old box torso." And then I think I chucked the Myers legs on it. Was like, "Oh, sweet!" And then I was like, "Oh, it looks like a bit of a hand unit," and it just kind of like naturally built up. And I think the head was the last bit. And I was like, "Man, this dude's like." Really boring looking. Like he sort of had like the bright arms, and I'm like, they could be just like massive safety gloves. And I'm like, yeah, all right. And it kind of like started to come together, but this was really sort of like boring, but almost like too boring. Like it was just too thought out. And I was like, this dude's dark. Maybe he's the darkest one in the universe. But yeah, but he was really cool. And then yeah, like B to the J picked him up, and then I think I had another couple of people sort of hit me up about Maintenance Jones, and I was like, "What? He's been in the shop for like 2 months." So yeah, your one is a little bit different.
That creepy face. And sorry, that's a Rancor head.
Yeah, it's the Rancor Keeper head. I can never remember his actual name, but I think over time with the molds as well, it's kind of started to sort of warp out a little bit. So he's a lot kind of fatter, and the face is probably just slightly kind of got this weird like warp to it, which is kind of cool because then he's pretty much unrecognizable. He's also missing obviously most of his head.
So I'm gonna share a ruthless moment here. I just kept on demanding yellow arms. I had no idea that the mold was shot. If anybody hasn't seen the video, Crumbs had no idea the mold was shot, and I just kept demanding, "Dude, I want yellow arms." And Tiddy Bean did it. Even though the mold was on the last, like, I'm pretty sure he even told me, like, I threw it out the moment I made your arms.
Yeah,
I wasn't doing that.
Yeah, it was very much retired. Look, they're probably pretty rough now, and I just did the new mold for like the same arms, and like they look pretty slick. And I'm like, I probably should have done this like when I did the Maintenance Jones, but at that point molds were taking me a little longer. So, but it's cool. So yeah, like, I did the new boss torso as well, so I've got molds for those. So yeah, basically I could sort of punch out some Maintenance Jones if anyone wants some. So I try and make them different. They're not kind of a really like exclusive one off, kind of like the Acolyte. Each one is different from the last, so they are kind of each one special. But yeah, so if anyone keen on a creepy Maintenance Jones, hit me up because they're fun to make, and I think I've been punching out some brains as well. I sometimes go through periods of forgetting to make brains and then realize I don't have enough. So yeah, got the parts there. But yeah, the pink brain as well, like that. I think that really solidified it for me. I wasn't sure what the next is. Maintenance Jones always has a clear brain, but then yeah, the other one is usually a bit random. And then yeah, he's got his hat.
Well, someone was even asking in the questions earlier. They were curious how you get such clean, clear, colored pieces, and I'm gonna say translucent too, man.
Yeah. So I think like usually with the weapons, so the knives and the hammers, they're all part of the vents in the mold. So it's just kind of like filling it up, making sure that it's really full. And then in terms of the clarity, I get quite paranoid about the clarity because I see some people in the same materials like Smooth On 326, like One Trick Pony or Hello Radical, like they are so fucking clear, and I'm like, mine are just not that clear. But I think that's also just like the texture of the sculpts on the figures. There's so many things that can sort of make it go from like quite, even the mold release. So when I was doing I've got one here, but I don't know if I should show it packaged. I can show a little bit of it because it's a good example. I don't know if you can see so these are like the blood drip ones. So I'm not.
So
Quite.
yeah, when they ask, personally, that's exactly where my brain, I wasn't sure what the person meant, but my brain instantly went to those bad boys.
Yeah. So
did you feel like explaining it all?
Of course. So I think when I started doing the blood drips, I had a fresh batch of 326, so it was really like just good to go. So I was like, cool, I want to make them as clear as possible. But then sometimes the mold release, yeah, if there was sort of less mold release, you'd get like a bit more of a matte finish. So some of the mummy stalkers have a more of a matte finish, whereas say the Frankenstalkers and the Pikal Pies and the drop are glossier, and that just like obviously improves clarity quite a bit. So check him out. I don't know if he'll come up too well just in the light.
I'm in that same boat, man.
So, but yeah, this was probably one of the clearer ones that sort of came up well. So yeah, it's just like using probably a freshest batch of sort of clear resin that you can. Pressure pot helps a whole lot with bubbles and clarity because, well, yeah, it gets rid of everything. Well, not everything. It gets rid of a lot of the issues, but it doesn't solve your bubble issues completely. So yeah, but then as I've sort of noticed, like as I get sort of further through the batch, you know, it starts to get a bit unclear, the dregs, all that kind of stuff. So usually once I get to that point of the resin, I'll start sort of doing more opaque pieces and sort of hiding the shitty lack of translucency, translucency, whatever it is.
I dig it, man. You know, and then like if you don't mind me asking too, because you've mentioned Pikal Piers. I don't know if everybody else knows about like the history of why it's like the Pikal Piers. And personally, it took me a while. And the moment it clicked, I was just like, as if it's the Posk head.
Yeah, so I honestly don't know why there is. I think it was because I double cast the Bosk heads and was kind of like, I'd like with the brain and stuff, and just wasn't sure what to do with it. And then, yeah, I honestly can't remember the moment where I was like, I'm going to do Posk, and that's just going to kind of bring it together. Because, yeah, I honestly don't remember why or how, but I remember making these like double cast, yeah, Bosk heads with the brains, and thought I wanted to use them, but they didn't really fit with some of the other toys. I didn't want to make it just like, this is Bosk with a double cast kind of thing. So, yeah, I made Posk. And very, very creative and thought out name. Just because it goes with Pikal, like even the name Pikal Pies, like the only reason was just kind of like, well, it can't be Michael Myers because, well, that's just ripping someone off. But if it's Pikal Pies, and it just sounded really stupid because I think I went through like lots of different like Kaikal Pies, Bikal buyers. I think Bikal buyers was fun. There was definitely a buyers element to it, and then I think it was sort of like Pikal buyers, and then it was like, nah, it's got to be just Pies and Posk and everything, and then there's Pistopian Pies because it's dystopian, but it's Pistopian. I don't know. It's just it's really just dumb, pretty much.
What I love about it is anybody who's watching this, like, you're familiar with Tiddy, does a lot of the head swapping. Like, that character has the head swapping. It explicitly says that it switches out to their character. In toy culture, there are aggressive bootleggers who will purchase a toy or rip open a toy at the store. They'll steal the pieces they need, and they'll just ram whatever the heck they want back into the package, and they'll put that on the shelves, and they'll return that. So one of the most famous ones that of course went across the internet is a Bosk figure that has a Ponda Boba head on it. Of course, Walrus Man.
Yeah.
And so the internet of course likes to make fun of the whole Posk head on there. So for me, I love the fact that you have like the Pikal Piers with a head swap to the Bosk, and it's Posk head on the label. So it's like that's really friggin' jokes to me, man. Like I said, has that Posk head right on there. It's just playing into it, and it's like, what's the name of that one buff weird dude in the UK? Are we talking disc one? Are we talking toys or people? Are we supposed to be like, is Tiddy Bean supposed to be explicitly knowing a very particular human for you? Who is just
what's that one weird buff weird dude in the UK? Yeah, I've got no idea. Go on.
My goodness. And vomiting droids. My new toy company is going to be Tiddy Bean Toys. You know what? if you called it Tiddy Bean Toys and you just totally ripped them off as a complete like pitiful attempt at making toys, you might be onto something.
I like that. Do it, vomit. Do it. That is brilliant. Tiddy Bean Toys. Tiddy Bean Toys. Yeah, I don't know if you've got toys or poise. I don't know.
I'm trying to picture now Tiddy Bean toy pieces with holes and double casts of bear heads protruding out of the brains.
Yeah.
Two jokes, man. And dude, like, so I'm curious actually, what were you painting when we hopped on here?
Ah, cool. So I've been painting a couple more mummy stalkers. I don't know if I remember which heads are going in. Body.
And now when you do your mummy stalkers, are you just doing straight up what are you using ink wash or are you using paint on that? Sorry, acrylic paint.
These are both. See if I can get that. Right. So this one, I think the color's going a bit. Just in, just like sorry to answer your question. Inks first, and then paint. So the paint's kind of got something to latch onto a bit, and then inks usually over again, and then like little bits of like metallic kind of highlights, which I'm still kind of working it out. I think I like a lot of things flipped it on the first go with the first painted one. But trying to get that like kind of like battle like scrapes, like the sort of predator armor kind of thing. Like that's what the arm's from. So to try and replicate that, I don't have any good examples because luckily people bought the good examples, and which was nice. But yeah, there's a certain kind of like bit of sort of like silver that just kind of like really clicks and brings it together. But yeah, this one, I don't know. I'm my own worst critic, and I'm not loving this. But since I put the ink wash on it, it's felt like it's improving because it's got lots of different kind of colors. Like I usually only sort of use a couple of colors, and like the arm is more of like a sort of translucent, sort of see-through sort of thing. And then there's just like lots of colors. And sorry, I don't know why I'm tilting the phone.
Okay, my brain is like rolling. I've got to ask, man. Like, okay, so before you even go to the paint stage, when you're doing the ink ups, do you have to like ink it, wash it, ink it, wash it, or are you just like inking it the once and then like stacking layer on layer? Like, are you rubbing these down or?
A bit of both. It really depends on what where. So on these particular ones, so this is a good example. This is another one. So I did three. Did three just like plain mummy stalker builds, and then one's opaque blue pink base, one's like a violet lilac kind of base, and the other one's a red one. The red one will be a little bit different. I don't know if I want to show the red one, but this one's a good example of something that I think looks like absolute shit right now, and I'm hoping I can bring it back. So some areas the inks will cling quite well, whereas on the back where more mold release is built up, it's just fucking really hard to get it to stick. So you can usually end up sort of balancing it out. But yeah, there's even parts like you can kind of see down the leg. There's certain areas where the ink's just not sticking. Normal person.
You know what?
Sorry, man.
I personally have never had a pair of jeans like naturally fade or wear in like the perfect places, or like in a like you know it's a pretty organic shape. It's kind of hard to like you can almost play with those, I'd feel, man.
Yeah, and sometimes it works out really well. Sometimes it just gives enough of like the paint or the ink not sticking to give it a really kind of like cool sort of like effect. So yeah, so to be honest, I usually sort of slap like ink on, sort of wash it down a little bit, and then I'll try and work on a few because I'm impatient. So I'll sort of like do the next one, and then just as the ink's kind of starting to dry, I'll sort of start to wash it off a bit. But then the ink's sort of already started to dry, so you kind of get like little scars, and that's where it's sort of like the cool little textures start to build up. And then also it starts to sink into all your little details. So which on the mummy stalker is pretty cool because he's got like the bandages down his legs that usually like nice little nooks for the ink to get in there, and the arms as well. So like the inside of it's such a small thing, but when it's like pops, it looks so cool at the inside of the predator arm because it's got that like cross hatching kind of thing, like that netting. I fucking love that.
And actually,
sorry.
I'm sorry, man. I can just pick your brain forever. I don't mean I'm like a child. I'm literally like a 5-year-old child when I'm seeing this stuff. Did you not have to re-sculpt a bunch of the bandages?
Yeah. So because how did I do it? Yeah, I can't even remember. No, I did. I'd sort of like just on the insides of the legs because the way the legs. Have I got any mummy? I've got no mummy parts here. Oh, I got the prototype actually. Holy shit, it's just sitting here. Yeah, so on the inside of the legs, the kind of grey bits it's only kind of, it was built way up and then trying to get the right sort of width and the right stance that I wanted. Like I didn't want him to do his legs bent sort of right out. But then like gluing the legs together, kind of fluked that they just kind of like flowed because before doing it, I didn't realize that legs are really fucking hard to like get in like a good stance. Yeah, I just didn't realize until I started doing it and went, oh, this is going to be tricky. So that used like the inside of the legs were like built up and kind of like scratched it. It was actually lucky with the texture because like bandages, you just need to like sort of scrape across as if it were, and it just worked. And then the big sort of reveal was going to be when I did like the first pull, thinking there would be like this kind of like ridge you could see where the bandages and the figure sort of start and end, but it came up really good. And that again, yeah, like it took a while, but at the same time, I was quite surprised with the result.
Yeah. No, dude, that I think we were even talking about the one day separately. Like I think that figure is probably one of the most like 3D to life figures I've seen in a while. And personally, like I love the contrast that you've been able to do with it because you were even saying when you did the drop, you weren't sure what direction you were going to go in, and yet it's like you've got that all bloodied up one over there,
Yeah,
and just the total contrasts, man,
yeah,
that you end up managing to get between the pieces while still maintaining this like. I think that's my favorite part. Like we were talking about the one day. He's probably got that like, yeah. You got to picture that like demony voice.
yeah. He's got a real hissy kind of voice, like not. I kind of like liken it a bit to like Cobra Commander because I fucking love JoJo and like Cobra Commander, but Cobra Commander is like really shrill and that kind of thing, and a little bit sort of too far. And but yeah, something kind of in there. But I loved it one day talking to like I think it was One Trick Pony, yourself, and Skull and Void when they like imagined him like with an Australian name, like yeah, come over here, like a really just bad Australian kind of accent. And I also thought that was kind of funny as well. So. I think maybe some worlds there's like the Australian mummy stalker, but some worlds there's just like the really hissy, weird, creepy one.
Okay, so you just brought something up very interesting. Because like I said, I'm like a 5-year-old child. I don't know anything. When you picture your toys, like, because admittedly, like, you know, if you're imagining them. Let's say you're imagining if this toy was a real character in a game or in a movie. Are they Australian in your head? Or because you've seen so much Americanized television and stuff, do they fall right into that?
Yeah, straight into that. Like there wasn't kind of I didn't even consider it until the boys were kind of like I imagined with an and I was like, oh, I didn't even imagine that. Like I imagined him with a full like American sort of like over the top, yeah, like cartoon video game sort of, you know, voice. Yeah, some. But yeah, no, they're always that sort of Americanized, and that's just because of so much movies and television, games. There's not many kind of cool, like Australian toy characters or like cartoons, or not that I can think of at the top of my head. So, yeah, my brain just went instantly to kind of that Americanized Western sort of kind of thing.
Dude, and actually, I'm sorry because I'm fondling it. You did this all from scratch too.
Yeah.
You had to carve that all from scratch.
Yeah, so the shoulder thing, I wanted to do I've got it here, like the shoulder. What am I actually? So on one, like the earlier, I think like the Death Stalkers and stuff had like the little shoulder thing, so I sculpted like that little shoulder. Thing, and it was just kind of cool, and it came up quite clean, and I was like, cool. So for the next sort of like custom parts I wanted to do, I always like the big sort of like shoulder thing and like the small one there, and I don't know, it's just cool, just like armor and stuff. And yeah, so I just started sculpting and I just kind of knew I wanted to have like another thing, but it needs to be a little bit bigger. But that was just all I knew. And then just kind of, went through until the form and the shape started, and using like epoxy sculpt. So it was sort of like a limited, I only had like an hour or two to sort of like sculpt it, or to decide what I kind of wanted the base to look like. And then I think over time, I did sort of like the back bit first, let it dry. Yeah, and it was quite slow because usually I get really impatient with Sculpey, but this time with the Mummy Stalker, I just kind of like, kind of do those layers and just do it slowly, let it actually dry. Whereas in the past, I'd be shocking with Sculpey. I'd be just like wanting to like sort of manipulate it more. I'd change my mind, and there's a lot of broken things around here. But yeah, with this one, I was like, no, it's got to be right. But then I sort of did it, but didn't kind of design it thinking about, how is it going to like mold properly, and where am I going to like vent this if I need to. But luckily it came out fine. Like I was like, oh shit. So I think I probably over vented. Like I used to use a vent that sort of went from there up in, and it was probably just too involved in weakening the mold in the long run. And then remolded the arms the other day, and it just comes up fine.
As if, man. Mummy Stalker's been a jerk. I'm also noticing Adam Figure Photography is saying it's going to have a Steve Bisley toe voice. So I'm going to pretend that actually says a Steve Buscemi voice. Because personally, if I could imagine Mummy Stalker coming in like Steve Buscemi and having Steve Buscemi eyes.
I think I've got a feeling Adam Figure Photography, oh, I know, he's an Australian, and Steve Bisley is like an Australian actor from, if it's the same kind of thing, he's from like an old pop show called Water Rats. And yeah, he's got a very Australian kind of cutting sort of accent. And that's good. So that's a great reference. Sorry, that's probably a bit out there. But yeah, it's cool. Like, to think it's sort of like, what their voices and shit would be. And like Frankenstein doesn't talk much. I know that. Like, he's a bit sort of like a quieter kind of one. He's very Darth Vader-esque, bit of a tortured soul. And Frankenstein, like, as if there's not some sort of parallels between Frankenstein and Darth Vader in terms of kind of being shit.
So what I find kind of a little bit interesting with the whole voice thing is because this one is actually an Ellie piece. Now there's been a couple of the Ellie pieces. This was like the first. You were the first person I asked about an actual Ellie piece. So Ellie, black, white on the limbs. Dude, you went all out on this. And I've actually got to commend you, too, because you pointed out what colors you could see on my shelf. And you're sneaky like this. One Trick Pony and I have both noticed. You're sneaky like this. You play this like, I'm Tiddy Bean Toys, I'm party time. But you've even said, like, you take it very seriously. And you'd asked me what color for the sabers. And the last time we were even talking, like, you looked at the back of my wall and you made a comment on the colors you were seeing on the wall. And then, like, boom. So the reason why I go to the Ellie piece with this one, though, too, is for some reason, Ellie, we'd always picture, like, a really, really nasty Manchester accent. Like, almost like just some, like, total heifer of, like, a woman from, like, the dirtiest, grimiest place. Because when you're looking at this, like, demanding, angry pig, and you picture it almost being like, hey, pick up my shit. And it's kind of like, yeah, no doubt. Of course, you'd be like this demanding Manchester, like, bleh. So, like, I'm going to have to say that, unfortunately, Frankenstalker here is going to have to be that way there. And, dude, you were commenting on how some of the black you felt may have bled into the white, but I would totally disagree. This is so clean, man.
Thank you.
And, like, okay, so your molds, in particular, made doing this in one go, like, impossible. Completely impossible. And of course, I had no idea until I saw your mold type.
Yeah, it's pretty tricky. I'd be interested now because I'm started to do a few toilet paper molds, which are like a little bit different. But again, like getting the arms, I couldn't do. So the way, my phone's actually sitting on one of the molds. Actually, I can just do this. Just so happens I had a mold here. This is the Mummy Stalker mold. So yeah, it's sort of like try and pour resin in and even sort of like guesstimate. I feel like I'm sort of not too bad at sort of like guessing about how much I've sort of poured in each bit. But where the problem is, like once you kind of like pour in, it starts to go up the vents. So it's just, you just can't kind of mentally keep track. And sometimes you can get pretty close. Sometimes it's just you fluke it. You don't even mean to do it, and it just comes out perfect. And I tried it a couple of times to just pour the white, and then pour the black as well, using a thicker resin, so it'd be a bit more. It wouldn't sort of mix as much, and I came close a couple of times, but then I kind of got obsessed with having a hard gradient, and then kind of put it on the back burner for a minute, and did it with. I can't remember if it was the intention to kind of, I think it was to sort of make something like that, but I had like a mist pour and I made the purple and green one, which I think is sold. And that was kind of like a test go, and that worked really well. However, I didn't think about the resin just kind of like slightly bleeding over the lighter limbs. So once I did the first white one, yeah, I was like, damn, the actual second type of resin there needs to be like a bit of a color combination. So but yeah, there was like little bits of like, because you can just kind of see like little gray bits, like little bits of black resin, and it would just do my head in. And I think I sort of like ended up, you can kind of scrape them off, but like once I saw them on like one side, I'd be like, nah, I'm gonna have to do that again. But then eventually came to my senses and just, you know, sort of picked it off. But yeah, it came up really well. But it's tricky because you've got to, I thought, oh, this is great, I can just like snip some of my like spare parts off and just like jam them in the mold, and it's like, nah, like it's not that easy. You've pretty much got to do like a fresh set of feet and arms, keep all the flashing and the vents in, and then cut them and then put them back in, just so you're like filling all these tiny little gaps, because the pressure pod will, you know, if you've got these, yeah, these, you know, yeah, they'll just leak. So it was like, damn, that wasn't quite as cool and as easy, because I got lots of spare parts. I was like, I'm gonna snip all this shit up and put it in. It was like, nope. Not quite that straightforward, but still a really cool process to mess around with. I've done a couple more.
Nice.
Oh no, I've shared them, I think. I thought I had them on hand. They must be out in the yeah, but I did a couple and then sort of stopped because, yeah, they've just sort of sat there, and I've really probably overwhelmed myself with figures to sort of make and complicate. So I'll get back around to it. But yeah, it just kind of did my head in a little bit, some of the bleeding of the other resins. I'd get really fixated on that. So they'll come back around. Everything comes back around.
And actually, that was actually one of the questions that were actually asked earlier today too. For mold types, what type of mold type do you generally kind of lean towards? Because you were just showing us that you have the 2-part mold. You were saying that you've started using some toilet paper rolls.
Yeah. Yeah. So
it's like
I think traditionally, so when I started making molds really early on, I would use like little storage containers. I've got one here. This is an old kind of parts box from probably the first generation of Tiddy, using these kind of things and then just like sort of blocking them off. And that would be sort of heads, and I think I did a couple of torsos as well. And that was like some of my first molds that I made for Tiddy Bean, just messing around. It wasn't for like the page or sale. And then I think I sort of did a bit more research and checked out Craftsman, Steady Crafting, which, yeah, just did a really good video on like 2-part molds. So then I just kind of figured everything had to be 2-part mold, except for heads, which I still just do a little Lego box, pour it in. Yeah, they're pretty straightforward. And then, but yeah, to make these 2-part molds, so this is that's the Mummy Stalker one. So for like figures like Mummy Stalker, Frankenstalker, Michael Pies, I'll use all 2-part molds just because they're, I don't know, longevity, and sort of, you can do cool shit like, you know, taking the feet out or, you know, putting them back in. You've got a bit more sort of freedom. And also, yeah, I guess the only sort of obstacle is the seam lines, which again I probably fixate on a little bit too much. I'm trying to sort of get them all smooth, but yeah, these take ages. Like this really does my head in, making 2-part molds, like sort of getting the Sculpey, you know, all kind of sealed up, scraped. It was just, and it would prevent me from making new parts. So I was like, there needs to be a quicker way. So then I started messing around with yeah, just doing like toilet rolls and hot glue. I got a new hot glue gun as well, which really helped because it's really quick, rather than like trying to like like jammed down the hot glue stick, and it was just a mess. So once I got the hot glue gun, it was just like, all right, focus on it. I'm able to get some good, just bootleg spare parts. So this one's pretty cool. Oh, actually, no, I'll show you this one.
Sorry.
So getting like the new kind of like dystopian pyres parts pretty much, and also the boss torso. These are all out of like, toilet paper molds, toilet roll mold. And once you kind of like got the idea around the vents and that kind of thing, because I guess I'd be really particular about venting and making sure I'm venting the right parts. But with these ones, they come up really good. So I was like, cool. I thought I'd get bubbles in sort of places, but again, I think from making 2-part molds, you just got a pretty good idea of where the air is going to go. So to make, and like some of these, it took me like an hour to make 2 or 3 molds, I think, whereas before to make 2 or 3 like 2-part molds it would have taken me all day. Like, that was a light bulb moment of like, why haven't I been doing this the whole time? Like, it just totally took the hard way.
Well, sometimes I personally enjoy a challenge, and if anybody has seen Kerfloss and his process, he has taken a very I'm trying to think of the right wording for it, like, because it's not excruciating or anything if you're enjoying it along the way, but he's just taken a very exact way about doing it. And his 2-part molds, I remember even back in the day when he was first showing the backpack for his character, the number 2 figure.
Yep.
Did I get that right?
Yep.
When he was showing the backpack for it, and he was discussing how one of the Kenner guys on one of the forums had been talking about bringing the lines up to the right places, and right off the hop, you're sitting there being like, whoa, pardon me? Like, I've seen people do 2-part molds, and as somebody who, like, I would even say part of what got me into enjoying talking with you guys was that I needed to know more.
Yeah.
I came into this knowing nothing at all. And there was probably like about a month ago even, somebody asked me if something was 3D printed. And I was able to explain to them the entire process of how this hollow body figure was made out of resin. And to be able to do that all of a sudden was kind of like, oh, neat. And I kind of take that for granted, how that kind of evolves. Yeah. But then again, you see somebody like Kerfloss at the beginning and you're like, whoa. And what's trippy is, I mean, no sarcasm about it. He's got a way with words where, like myself, I can plan something out to the T, and I'm still going to like sound and look like a 5-year-old tripping on his pants, like dick flailing. It's just going to happen that way.
Yeah.
Kerfloss will write out this like beautiful thesis statement. In this video, this is what we sought out to do. Yeah. This is how we sought out to do so. This is what and you're like, I will never forget when I saw that figure fall over in the arm break. Oh, shoot. Okay, well, let's take this as a learning. No, pardon me. I would have been whipping my chair across the room. The live would have been open like that. No, he just very calmly, okay, well, let's look at where this went wrong.
Yeah, absolutely. The dude is like so zen, and like I've learned so much like watching his stuff. It's been insane, and to sort of sit there, and it's almost therapeutic, like just kind of the way he talks and explain things as well. It's really nice, and I'll often put on like his sculpting stuff or just any of his videos while I'm doing some painting or doing some work, because it's just awesome to sort of watch it. And yeah, like you say, like you'd be like, oh, okay, that's not really going to work. Yeah, whereas me, I would like flip the table and just like throwing something in, never to be seen again. But yeah, he just goes, and like the amount of work. I remember messaging him and I'm being like, oh wait, what are you doing that for? And he's like, no, this is how it's gone from scratch. And I was like, damn, I look like such a cheat just by making like these molds and pulling apart Star Wars toys. Whereas Kerfloss is sitting here just like going through every meticulous step. That's just genius. Like even today, I think I saw he had like a post of like, you know, resin stirring sticks and like putting like stuff on the end if you got, and I was just like, man, like this is just, it's cool. And like the metal like stirrers, I don't know if I feel like really dumb, but I'm like, why didn't I think of like using those? Like, because I just use like a plastic disposable like knives and try and like sort of get in there and it's shit. And then I have to chuck them away, but to use like metal kind of like, you know, strips, genius.
Dude, I'm still that guy like a monkey who gets peanut butters on the tops of my knuckles when I'm trying to get to the bottom of the container. And here's the Kerfloss just making his own tools. He's literally like he is the first Homo sapiens sapien.
Yeah.
Well, while I'm sitting there trying to get to the bottom of a container, hands getting just mucked in peanut butter. Ugh. Ugh.
And the armature kits as well, they're insane. Like that was so cool. Like to make the armature kits in the community and then do the video tutorials of like sculpting while he's doing the #2 like molds and stuff. It's crazy. Like I love a man that's in like got that many posts, but he does them like both so well. It's kind of like how can you like focus on both so well at the same time almost? And yeah, they're just so fucking detailed. It's awesome to watch someone do that and learn so much from someone doing that.
Well, not to I don't want to steal it away from you because I love talking to you about your work. But actually, Cat Fans Forever, I couldn't help but notice that he chimed in there, and I've had the opportunity to sit with him. So if anybody hasn't had a chance to check out their work, I've got a little video in the back burner that I'm going to be dropping out as soon as I get my ass in gear. But that individual, that dude does some dope shit. I'm sorry, like when I was already like really stoked on his work, but man, when I saw the All American Alligator, and then the fact that when I was like, dude, that mold must have been so heavy, and he was like, oh, it's probably like under a pound, and then again, these dudes in the community are so nice because I'm somebody who I don't touch resin, I don't build molds. For this person to then like for Cat Fans Forever to sit there before we even sat on a video and actually explain to me what was happening in those posts he had done because I was looking at them and trying to understand and piece it. But for him to then actually like explain to me what was happening, it was like a game changer, man. And oh yeah, honestly, I think more people like I've got him in Command Kerfloss. It takes balls to get onto a live by yourself and just decide, you know what, I'm gonna do my thing, and maybe somebody will learn something or just want to come in and hang out, and
yeah,
I'm gonna do it.
yeah.
It takes balls.
Yeah, it's wild. It's wild just yeah, sort of chuck that stuff on and yeah, just do it. And yeah, like that. Yeah, that I remember you showing me that cat fans for everything, and that was so cool. Like, yeah. Have you got?
Sorry, I don't mean to be that guy,
Oh,
but
no.
this was really cool to me because when he told me about this, and if anybody watches the live or if you're watching this one, and you're gonna get the full detail and the nitty gritty. But this was actually he had I want to say pigmented, but he's probably gonna correct me. But he had actually dyed or pigmented the like epoxy, and
Oh,
then actually sat there like putting it on and having to try and actually like evenly distribute it. And then
no.
what's creepy as all frig, man, is the eyeballs actually are glow in the dark. Like the whole figure's glow in the dark, but especially their green glow in the dark. And, and they're just like, even like when you look at the shelf, admittedly, when you turn off the light, almost anything that he gave me, something just has these little green eyes just staring at you, and you're just kind of like, leave it to a dude named Cat Fans Forever,
Yeah.
rocking out the Bad Mojo toys. But when you think of Cat Fans Forever, you're not picturing glow in the dark,
No.
scully eyeball.
And the dude that got the oh he's kind of like a little skull dude. He's got like the chainmail I think or the armor and I think like a little what's it called like bombing knocker thing
The
like
Baron?
yeah looks so
Dude,
cool.
that's, again, I'm so sorry. I'm not trying to steal your, I'm not trying to steal your, but again, this is really cool to me. The fact that he literally built like a stand. The
Yeah.
stand has the like the meat monster, and there's a plushie behind me. And like literally, dude, like he slides in under the skulls.
Oh yeah.
I think that was like the fact the feet actually like slide under there. And then I like to picture they hatch like you remember like you know I'm weird, man. I always picture always like the Diablo 3 and stuff like
Yeah.
this guy coming up and just like blah, blah, this thing explodes, blood goes everywhere. This little guy all of a sudden crawls out, blah, 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 kills him too.
That's
Yeah.
yeah.
Sorry. I swear, I don't always play with my toys like this. Usually they're displayed nicely. I promise that when I'm saying I'm working, it's not me just like on the floor, just yeah, no, shit's going down.
Cool.
I don't think I got a chance to actually ask you, how do you do your marbling? And there's actually two different types of marbling that I feel that you do because you actually do your regular like full-on swirl marbles with the three colors you've been doing lately and the double coloring, but also your acid droopers. They were even a little bit more different with the way you did the marbling, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, so I think I was looking for a new way with just looking for a new technique with marbling because it kind of got a bit ooh, can't show you that. It got a bit, I don't know, it just got a bit sort of lame, and there were certain resins I was using that kind of marbling wasn't kicking off, so I was like, I need something to look a little bit different. And then I saw, I think it was maybe That Damn Joe do one of the bone ghosts. It was maybe, I can remember around the time, it was around Halloween for some reason. But anyway, he did like a video where he'd pour the resin into the mold and then pour the resin out, and then I think he'd pour the next resin in, and it was just that sort of dump out. And I was like, oh, cool. So I think I initially filled it like maybe halfway. I filled it a little bit, then sort of like dumped it out. But yeah, it took a little bit of trial and error, and even the method at the moment, yeah, sometimes it works really well. Sometimes I dump it out too much, and you don't kind of get a nice little bit of a build up to get into a bit of a gradient and then a marble. So, but yeah, it's basically having two colored resins, fill one mold up, pretty much to the top, dump it all back out, put it to the side, do the same thing with the next mold, dump it back out, and then I would maybe just pour like a little bit in back in the first mold, and just kind of like flip it and turn it like that. So then you kind of get that rolling kind of thing, and then pour the second color in, and then just kind of like layer, because once you can't really sort of like, once your second color hits, you can't really do much more, because if you pour it out, it's all just going to kind of mix and probably turn into a shit color. So it's that first kind of stage which is the most stressful, because you got to pour it in, pour it out, you got to sort of twist it, but then imagining the resin slowly like settling back down. So then sometimes if it's been sitting there and it's been dumped out, I'll give it another sort of twirl, just to make sure that there's not just this really big build-up, which this is not a good example. And this is actually one that's it basically worked perfect if this was going to be like an alley piece in terms of how like the resin and stuff settled. I think this would be
Hot though.
yeah, it's pretty cool. So this was originally, was going to be a yellow and like hot pink kind of marble, but I put glow powder in, and I guess the glow powder just made the resin just heavy, so it just kind of settled, which initially was a little bit disappointing, but then yeah, I just thought actually it looks really cool. It's really symmetrical, so I got this thing with symmetry. So like the gloves are the same, the chest, not crazy about how the chest is a hard sort of gradient, but then the legs look pretty cool. And the saber came up good as well. Sabers are always a bit of a bitch. They're often have a bit of a bend in them. But yeah, this guy needs a trim, but I think he might be going in the store, he might be going to someone. So, but that was another like color combination. I was like, damn, I haven't done this one before, and it actually works really well. So I think I get stuck on, with the marbling, you got to choose a couple of different colors, and sometimes you don't know what colors are going to turn into after you've done it. And sometimes, yeah, just like trying to hit that contrast. Also, the resins that you use, I think, no, I don't have any there. The more kind of like thicker resins work well for the marbling. I don't know, you just kind of get a nice, clean sort of twist of sort of colors. Whereas this is a really good example of a bad twist of colors where it's just like basically a gradient. But yeah, so for the older, say like the Death Stalkers, those early kind of like marbling, it's just pouring layers in, just like pouring this bit of resin, that bit of resin, and just kind of like alternating. But then also trying to imagine like how it would sort of look. So depending where your feet are on the thing, like do you want it to sort of have like, red feet? You kind of get used to like imagining about how much is full and where the marble's going to pop out. But I think, and I'm not sure, I don't actually know the science behind it, but I think once it goes in the pressure pot, I'm interested to see how much the pressure makes it warp more, or whether it like makes it low. I want to know what the pressure kind of does to it, because on these, like the pressure pot gives it that kind of like that push. It pushes like what's it called? Pigment. It pushes the pigment down and gives it that kind of cool effect. So I'm interested to see what the effect of the pressure pot has on marbling, and whether the marbling is kind of like got shitter since I got a pressure pot, because that could also be a thing. But then say marbling using, I'll just show you because I can't be, it's just easier. So this is kind of the acid drooper method. So some of these, this one actually came up quite well because it kind of comes up with like, say, the whole predator arm is basically like one color. Most of the stormtrooper, this was a good balance. But yeah, the problem is when you do that dump out sometimes of the resin will kind of get all stuck in these parts. So you basically come out with one that's just got like a full like orange or green leg and a tiny bit of purple, and you're like, well, that's a bit shit. So again, you're leaving a lot of it up to chance. But you sort of start to get to know the processes, and also the mold release is obviously like have an effect of how much resin sticks to certain parts. So if it's a really older mold, it's going to have like a really slick side, so it's probably going to run off a bit more. And yeah, there's lots of little things that can mess you up. And yeah, there's definitely a lot of marbled ones and acid drooper kind of ones with the dump out that are just lying around in pieces in the garage because they just didn't have a good marble to them. And a lot of the time, you don't even know what the marbling looks so much better when you actually like start like grinding bits away to like clean them up. Then you start to see all these cool like layers, and it's just like, shit, you can't even see that from the outside.
So Beaver the J was even asking, were the Death Stalkers done in like the same type of way?
Yeah, so I think Death Stalkers were pretty much the first marbling stuff that I did. That one came out, I think that was a little bit later, but Death Stalkers were done just with like basically layered with resin, like 2 different resins. And I think for the first one, I'd sort of like tumble it around a little bit, but there was no dump out. It was just kind of like, I'd imagine about where I'd fill the head up and then kind of give it a bit of a twirl and let it sit. So I'm really trying to replicate that same, because I think there's just some really cool marbling in those Death Stalkers, and it's quite hard to get it. But I get really, fixated on certain sort of styles. So, yeah.
No, dude, honestly, like your styles are, what's neat to me is like, okay, Tiddy Bean styles right here. We have a Frankenstalker, black with white clean boots and gloves. So then an Easter pink, sorry, Mummy Stalker. I really like the Mummy Stalker. I hope you guys understand that. Like that dude's dope. But like, look at that diversity. And then you've even got the Maintenance Jones, and then marbling. There's so much going on in there, man. Like you've literally just been, and like when we first hopped on, you were painting. Like you're always going. So it's kind of no surprise that you have such a wide range of what you're able to do. And also, I'm sorry, you brought up that the one reminded you of Predator, which is dope because in my opinion, I was sitting there looking at that one that was actually all pink with the yellow thing to myself. It looks like Predator Heat Vision.
Yeah.
Like, am I crazy? Like, dude, those pieces. I don't know if that's somebody's like collab package that they're getting, but that's a nice pairing. Zip on.
It was pretty cool. I think there's like the different, I get bored of certain, like whether it's just doing the same type of figure for more than like a day or a couple of days. So I'll need to switch over to like a different type of resin or different color or the marbling. But yeah, it's that's why I kind of don't stop, because there's always another style to do. But yeah, I don't know. I just find it hard because I think if I work on something too long, I'll end up hating it. So I know that I've just got to kind of like, all right, stop that, start something else, and then come back around. So yeah, I don't know. I think I forgot what the question was.
Well, you know what? I'm going to say fuck that question because you actually beautifully, naturally, organically segued us into one of the questions somebody had asked today. So how do you keep the fun in the process when you run a store? Because you know what, man? It's pretty easy to say that you love making figures until you're actually thinking to yourself, like, oh no, like, will somebody like this?
Yeah.
Is somebody going to enjoy this? Well, and then you start enumerating all these other things. And where does that, like, how do you find that balance?
I think by, just making different shit a lot. I keep an eye on the store pretty closely, probably more than I kind of should. I'm also really impatient, and I like to keep the store. I don't know, just kind of with different stuff in it. So that's why probably over the past month or month and a bit, just adding kind of like 2 figures at a time, and just kind of tweaking it, doing like the sale the other day. Yeah, but it can be pretty, I don't know, it's stressful when it's like annoying that you look at your analytics on your store. Well, that, yeah, I guess you kind of have to. But in terms of keeping the fun, it's just like making whatever I want and putting, yeah, whatever I sort of want in there. And I have absolutely no idea really what people will kind of like, because some of the stuff that I thought would just sit there for so long gets snapped up, and the stuff that I think would get snapped up just sits there for ages and just shows me every time I know nothing about anyone.
Well, no, your tastes just suck, man. You just like crappy things.
That's pretty much it. Yeah, it's funny. Like, I think the Pistopian Pies is a good example. Like, I got lots of comments on the tri-color sort of marbling pour dump out thing with the black, white, and green. And yeah, and no one sort of fed back on some of the other ones, but the other ones got sold, and the red, white, and green ones are still there. And I'm like, okay. But I think just like at the end of the day, not getting drawn into what people are going to want and like, but rather than what you want to make and what you enjoy making and what you think looks cool, and what you don't mind having laying around, like, you know, all over your house and desk is kind of cool, rather than making a shitload of things that you hope that will, like, you hope everything kind of like connects and sells, but at the same time, you've got to like make sure it like works for you before it like works for anyone else. But it's just, I don't know, I just kind of keep making, but I also get really concerned about spamming the Tiddy Bean Insta page with just kind of like in store now, because, you know, as much as it is like a place to sort of sell toys, it's also a place to see the process. So that's how it started. It didn't start as like, oh, I'm going to make a shop on Instagram. It started as just check out this process of like making molds and making toy kit batching, and so trying to keep the page as much of that as well. But I also, you know, that's the only place I've got to promote stuff. And so I just saw Hate Us joined. Hate Us! Sorry, it's funny, mate. But yeah, it can be quite stressful. But yeah, like I said, I think I said it in the interview we did a couple of weeks ago, Crumbs, that I'm kind of getting better at it, just kind of like planning drops more. And if I do have that spontaneous thing of like, oh, I'm going to add, like I did it the other night, I wasn't planning on to release those clear Mummy Stalker and Pistopian Pies, but I got excited and just was kind of like, oh, these are cool. Like, oh, I had the Mummy Stalker parts laying around for a couple of weeks, and then made that other one, made the Pistopian Pies, and was like, oh, there's a bit of a match here. So chucked them in store, and I don't know, I just kind of find that fun. It makes me feel like a real like human being, like by having like a store and adding stock to the store, and it kind of makes you feel, I don't know, I get a bit of a kick out of it. But yeah, it can be a bit of a drag, because sometimes you have slow weeks and stuff, and that's sort of like, oh, no one likes my shit. And you know, that's completely fine. Like, you know, yeah.
I would actually say, sorry, you touched on something beautiful there, that I think more people, it's so hard not to get yourself in that mindset. The reality is that there are like a billion factors, right? You do a drop, and the issue is that sometimes it's the fact people are kind of going, well, fuck, I just grabbed from Tiddy, I'm gonna grab a little bit wider. Sometimes it might be just that like the funds aren't there.
Yeah.
And I find it so disheartening when it's related to art and quote unquote success becomes selling.
Yeah.
Because the success, in my opinion, is, and you were kind of saying it, like, you made a fucking toy, man. Like, or a piece of art. I don't care what you want to call it, because they're the same to me. I'm using them interchangeably. A toy is a piece of art in my brain for me. So yeah, like, you're literally making pieces of art, and that is a success. And it sounds so corny and cheesy and lame to say that sometimes. It's like, oh man, no, like, you made it and you posted it and that's the success. It's like, no, but it is scary as fuck to wake up and decide that you're actually going to do something. And then once you've done it, to put yourself out there, man. Like, most of us aren't, let's face it, like, I don't know about you, but I'm not 12. I'm not as bold or willing to put myself out there usually.
Yeah.
I'm a little bit older now. I'm a little bit hesitant to put myself out there. And at the end of the day, when you guys are putting out these pieces in a market that has had like the suck lords, the killer bootlegs, the dollar slices, and the Kenners, and even the Varner Studios, like when you've seen those sculpts and stuff,
Yeah.
it's kind of hard for you to just feel like it's like, how do I tell people like I'm passionate about this and I'm just doing it because like I love doing it, and then to also try and find that support system of people that actually want you to share it and post it and get it out there.
Yeah.
It's got to be intimidating, man. I think I respect that the most. Like watching a claim drop, it sucks. Like let's face it. One, like nobody wants to pity buy. That doesn't make anybody feel good. So you're not gonna pity buy. But at the same time too, like it does really hurt sometimes when like the funds aren't there or whatever, and you watch a homie's claim drop just not do the way he thought, and he will directly link it to success.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh, please don't diminish your abilities or your skill to create based off of whether somebody had a fucking paycheck during a pandemic.
Yeah. Yeah. That's a huge, that's a massive thing. And I think initially, like doing Death Stalker drops. I think that was my first sort of drop, and like sort of doing it and putting yourself out there, and like no one, claiming anything, like people liking it, which was kind of cool, and possibly sharing. I can't remember, but to kind of have that expectation that almost like it's almost obnoxious to have the expectation that you're just going to sell figures in your first drop. Now, like some people do it, and that's fucking awesome. But I think, back then I just wanted to see what would happen. I just kind of wanted to like get the experience really quick, so then could kind of be like, all right. But yeah, like it's a pretty big kick to the ego when like nothing sells at all, and you kind of get people interested. But also, considering at the time, I think the postage cost was pretty high as well, and that was absolutely a factor. But then to sort of do another claim drop and then have a similar kind of result, it was kind of like it was a good experience to have, because it really defined for me like, well, you're not just doing this because you didn't sell anything. It's not like you've just packed it in, and you're not just doing it because, oh, it didn't sell anything. Well, what's the fucking point? It was kind of like, no, I want to make better shit now, and I want to like get to and just like keep pushing and making. And that's just kind of what happened. It was kind of one of those. I was like, is this just going to kind of like, fizzle out, or is this actually going to push me on? And I think the ego bruise lasted a little while, but then it was just kind of like, nah, I'm going to make some better ones next time, and I'm going to do other stuff, or I'm going to market it better, or I'm going to improve in some sort of area. And that whole time, it never kind of felt like, oh man, this is such a drag. I've got to like make more toys. It's like, fuck yeah, now we get to make more toys and experiment more, get more resins. And it's also going through and just learning from the community as well, and linking up with people, getting that support, linking up with like the homies has been a huge thing, just to kind of talk about, what pigments to use, what resins, like where do you get some of this stuff? All this kind of like time, trial and error, it just kind of like gets rid of it, and you're kind of like, cool, you actually get straight to the point, which is again something that helps the progression of toys by just getting it and asking people. Like I know there's some artists that, or even even customers and that sort of thing, like reluctant to just sort of reach out and ask an artist a question, and I just like welcome it. It's like, just do it, like that's how you learn. And I never had any shame about like sliding into One Tricks DMs or Skull and Boys DMs, or a lot of people just been like, how do you do that? Like, what resin do you use? And but it was surprising. There was people were a bit sort of shy like that, and I was like, okay, maybe I've grown up. Maybe I'm like mature and like confident just to fucking waltz in and be like, hey, what's that resin? Whereas other people are like, that's a bit rude, don't you think? I'm like, no, just ask them. Ask me. I'll tell everyone.
I do think we've talked about this a lot, man. There's a very fine line, but at the same time, like nobody can be the person to make the call. That's the issue, right? So, for instance, like no matter what anybody's feelings might be on it, we're in the fucking bootleg world. I feel that nobody can really be like, "Bo, he asked me what pigment I use, and then he went and grabbed it." And it's kind of like, dude, did you Google it? Could he have Googled it?
Yeah.
You know, so at the end of the day, I would even say that's something that I noticed, like, this will stick out to me forever. Because I was brand new, and I'm not going to name the artist, but they did something very special in their work. And I commented saying, hey, I don't know if it's your like special sauce, but how do you do that? And his comment back was, thanks so much. That will stand out forever to me because what I was asking him was not something I could just Google and find out. It was something he had developed.
Yeah.
It was clearly something that he had done. He was doing something very different than other people. He was manipulating this way of doing it. Like, I don't want to actually name off the artist basically, but they're doing a thing where I even asked Vomiting Droids the one day, hey, you're probably the closest person I know that has like an aesthetic like that. How do you get the resin to look like honey and slime over something like that? And to me, the fact that Buddy didn't want to outwardly say to me, like, oh, hit the DMs, I'll let you know, was a very clear sign of, like, that's my sauce.
Yeah.
You don't get to know that I add love to my cookies. That's my thing. You find your love to the cookies.
Yeah.
And so it's a hard line because I feel like a lot of creators are like, the community will share it all.
Yeah, yeah. And yeah, there's definitely ones that kind of hold their cards kind of close to their chest, which is kind of fair. And I don't know, like there's all this. Yeah, I totally get it because I'd be like, well, damn, like don't be. But I feel like the community's like helped me to kind of maybe I'll end up with a technique like that, and I'll be like the next Q&A, I'll be like, no, I'm not telling you shit. But. I think it's kind of fair enough. If it's something that's sort of taking you that long and it's a really unique kind of thing, then fuck yeah, I'd be hanging on to that as well. Unfortunately, the things that I do, I've probably just copied and grabbed from other artists and then just kind of like matched them all together. And but it is like even when people are like, you know, how do you do your molds? And I'm like, the Craftsman was pretty good, like in that, like it was pretty much how he did his molds was exactly how I still do my 2-part molds. Improved the vents a little bit more, but that was kind of it. So, but yeah, I'm always happy to help out with when sort of questions and people like starting up their own figures and figures what to use, and I'm keen. I'm keen to help out, put back into the community. They've been pretty good to me, so got to pay it forward.
Sinister Sigil Studio pointed out a suggestion he had. Dude, I'm gonna say I thought the same thing. I sat there one night with a Spider-Man I had dyed all black, and I went through fucking hot glue stick after hot glue stick trying to get this stuff to lay in coats of slime off of him so I could spray it later and have like a real nice like Venom character.
Yeah.
No, I don't know if it's hot glue. I've wondered if it's legitimately just like epoxy. I have no idea. One day I'll find out. It's pudding. He's just putting pudding.
I might know who this particular artist you're talking about when you kind of made the comparison with Vomiting Droids and the kind of like okay, and I'm totally like, and that's like as I was sort of saying before, I was like, I'd probably not tell anyone that either because I just like had the picture in my head. I'm like, how the fuck does he do it? Like, so cool.
And actually, front bread
glue idea though, I do like that because I guess hot glue it kind of gives it that. But then you say it starts to get real stringy, wouldn't it? Like you wouldn't have like sort of like nice. Sorry, am we saying too much about like what the effect is? I feel like kind of dancing around it.
Fred Brett, Craftsman shared this process. Einstein shared his math. Share. I love it. Fred Brett actually, because we were talking about molds earlier. I'm sorry, guys. I'm like a weird creep. I stalk Instagram like a forum. Like, you know, on back in the day, if you go to a forum and you're like, oh, this is something I enjoy, and I'm going to read the discussion. I kind of lurk like that. And Fred Brett makes some fucking really cool molds, man. If you ever get the chance, anybody, he's saying share, so he can't take it back now. You should hit him up and ask him about his molds because he was sharing them with me the one day, and it was blowing my mind the intricacies to get the shape and forms that he was pulling out of there. I don't know. Yeah, you know what's in the Citadel Studios? I don't feel like we're ripping on the characters. Yes, it's the breakout spray cans, and he also has these really dope. They're dunnies that he calls honeys. Now he'll take a dunny, cut it down the middle, and does a beautiful golding resining effect between the two, almost like it's been like peeled in half. I don't know how he does it. I respect the heck out of the fact that he has found something and he's would like to keep it to him. I'm sure, you know what? If I privately messaged him and it wasn't in a DM or on a post, he probably would have been like, "Here you go. You're not a maker. You're just curious." But it was a lesson for me that stood out anyways, and I really dug it because for me it stuck out as kind of like a, yeah, there's certain questions you just don't ask
Yeah.
right outwardly on somebody's posts.
And it happens, and sometimes you don't know until you've asked that it's not that. And yeah, like I've probably done it as well, and being like, you shouldn't do that," or yeah, no, fair juice. Like it's a sick effect. Like the dude's unreal. Like some of the characters, and yeah, it still blows my mind. Like I don't know, and it's also it's badass to have these fucking really cool figures that are just all covered in paint and stuff, and be like. Actually, that was more than a worthy sacrifice because the end product looks insane. Like, it's been a couple of figures. I'm like, whoa, can't believe he did it with that figure. And I'm like, yeah, I'm so glad that he did because it just elevated the figure and made it this just completely bizarre thing. And just the pops of colors as well is just insane every time. That's good inspiration
I've
for
even got to,
color mixes and marble. That shit.
I'm gonna make fun of myself a little bit because the reality is as much as I sat there being like, well, I asked him for the secret recipe and he didn't give it to me. It's not like I was gonna go and use it. But then I was trying to replicate it on this figure I was using. So that's why he doesn't tell us. Because he knows we'll fucking do it. We just can't not.
Totally, man.
As if, man. And it's trippy. Like, I'm sure, like, you must have some stuff like that you hold kind of dear to your heart that you're kind of like,
Yeah.
I'm calling out now.
I think I've always been a little bit sort of conflicted with that. I think I'm pretty open. I don't sort of advertise, I guess, how I do a lot of my stuff, but I think once you sort of like see the photos and some of the process, you kind of get it. Yeah, I don't know, I get really conflicted about, how much do you sort of, but then at the end of the day, I'm like, no, like people have been honest and shared with me. Like I said, just pay it back a little bit. But yeah, I think initially there was some like processes. I don't know if it was just like, I feel like I should hold on to these and not kind of share them. But then eventually I'd be like, well, people are probably going to want to know what I did. So then I'd end up like showing like a couple of like process shots. So it's just kind of like, I think about it. I'm like, oh, I'm not going to tell anyone. That I'm like, of course I'm going to tell people. This was fucking hard to do. And if you want to do it, then this is like basically what to do or what not to do. Which I think I'm lacking a little bit lately with the process shops. This is a balance between like having a kind of a store and then having a creative or creative page that I kind of, it's like I'm not trying to like not show you the process, but sometimes it's just not that exciting, or it can be really hard to explain in photos. Or what happens basically 90% of the time, I forget to take photos and then it's just like, shit. So I'll go through periods of like documenting something really closely and then doing something really cool, but forgetting to document any of it. And then having to like almost do it again and then take photos. And I'm like, oh, no, that seems really like conceited. So I usually just dump it.
Downer Energy, they're even saying, like, I think a hallmark of a healthy art community is sharing tech.
Yeah.
I've got to say, though, there's been many a times that when I have done an interview with an artist, I'll check with them if it seems like I'm editing it, and all of a sudden, like, a little alarm bell goes off where it's kind of like, I was not catching that when you said that. I'm going to check with you and make sure that that's all cool to go out.
Yeah.
Because every now and then, the reality is there are certain things people do that it's not a right way or a wrong way or a better way. It's their way.
Yeah.
And so the issue is that they might not even feel comfortable telling you because at the end of the day, they don't feel comfortable being like, this is the way you do it.
Yeah.
It's their way.
Yeah.
So I would even say sometimes when somebody's not willing to share, I wouldn't automatically assume that them not willing to share is them looking to hold something back from you. But like you're even saying, well, it's not all that interesting. So sometimes it might be the fact they're kind of like, well, everybody does this thing. I didn't think it was worth mentioning.
Yeah.
And other times it's kind of like, I don't know if I'm doing this right, and I don't really want to tell anybody because I'm a little embarrassed I do it.
Yeah, that's a really really good point. That kind of like this is how I'm doing it. I don't feel like this is the right way. It's kind of getting the result that I want. Like looking back, I don't know. You could sort of look back through like early Insta posts and me kind of like, damn, like I should have been. But it was all part of like the progression, the process of sort of. But yeah, definitely sometimes I'm like, geez, I only just sort of pulled that off, and I'm not super like it'll pass. It passes like a sniff test, but at the end of the day, I'm like, I'm not. That was really a messy job to kind of. I can't even think of something good. I think like even the lightsabers is probably a good example of like, this is shit. This is a crap way to do what I'm doing. And yeah, I don't actually want to encourage people to do this because it was really hard and there's probably an easier way. I just haven't quite gotten there yet. Yeah, and I still go through that shit. Like doing and this is something I don't know if I've shared, like using chopped up silicon to sort of fill out a mold, which was really good until the silicon started to sort of break away.
Okay, so
Yeah.
I've got to cut in only because Cat Fans Forever had a very interesting experience with this. Again, he was explaining it to me and he posted about it. But basically, he had an issue where, unfortunately, at one point, didn't I believe he'll probably correct me because I'm probably gonna be wrong. Mixed two of the different silicones. Is it the platinum and the tin?
Yeah, I would say probably cat fans that have to answer. I actually don't know what. I only realized that was a thing the other day about the silicons having that kind of element in them, and I probably should look up to see what mine are. But yeah, this was using the same silicon, but I think having the molds with built up bits of like mold release, and yeah, maybe just not really, maybe putting too much chopped up silicon in. Anyway, it basically tore a big hole on the inside of the mold. Tin cure and platinum isn't, yeah, there you go.
So I'd be wondering even if some of the chunks you had used, if they maybe had any kind of a reaction once in the pressure pot with the chemical, because silicone's actually semi-porous, right? So
Yeah.
I'll admit, like when I saw Kerfloss originally was using the wax, that's like, and I've seen the wax stuff, my brain was instantly like, oh, it's not semi-porous.
Yeah.
And I wasn't sure if maybe that would actually have anything to do with getting a better mold or anything, and I don't know. You have to use like, the exact same silicone product to get it to actually work. Anybody, by the way, like I've noticed Downer Energy reached out earlier today. He had his first drop, and I believe he might be a little bit he's newer to me in the community. And I always think it's really sick when people in the community open up and welcome new artists in the community. So if you get a chance, anybody who's checking it out, check them out and check out their new work. Some really dope sculpts that I think all of us can relate to at this point. It looks like a creature he's devised that's basically holding itself in like the curled up fetal position, almost one cry. So yeah, most of us I think can relate to that sculpt at this point in time.
I relate to that on a daily basis. I'll have to check it out if I haven't already. I'm really bad at remembering. You're awesome at it, Crumbs, like remembering like screen names, photos and stuff. I am terrible at it, so apologies.
Well, again, like I'm like a 5-year-old, so at the end of the day, there's things that will stick out to me, and those things are going to be toys, pizza, chocolate. And that's about how I operate.
Like
and that's why everything I touch was in my mouth. Because I just got such a small circle of things that like I'm just like, is this pizza, chocolate, or toy? This one's toy. And then on with my day. See, and Tiddy's always on the go. Literally doing an interview.
Sorry, man, just having lunch. I'm having party pies for lunch. That's a staple. When I'm like too like in the work zone kind of thing and can't decide what to have for lunch, so I just go to the bakery and get a pie.
Okay.
Sorry.
I have a sad admittance, man. The work month from February and March has been so intense that I'm pretty sure I've been living off of vegetarian pizzas, French fries, and these weird little croissants. Like, the person must be wondering what the fuck is wrong with me, because I was talking to Fubi Loaf even. I'll buy this container of croissants, and I'll just like throughout the same of the day, I'll like come down, you haven't showered or anything during the work grind, and you just rip open this container and you just grab 4 croissants, because that's a meal. and then you just walk away, eat these buttery buns. That's all they are. They're bread. Like, that's what I find hilarious, too. If anybody said to me, if I was like, oh, I need a snack, and they were like, just grab 4 slices of bread and eat it, I'd be like, go fuck yourself. But croissants, there's something about them.
That's a different.
There's a snack on the go. So, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you, but so what are these that you're eating from Australia? There's some type of...
They're party pie. So this is usually what a little kid would go to, like so there's like party pies and party sausage rolls. So sometimes I feel like a big pie, I don't really feel in the mood for a big pie. So you got party pies. They're just little. They take the lid off sometimes and it's got the meat in there. I can't believe I'm going now. This is weird. Like, speaking of Skull and Void, is like, so meat pies are a thing over there. I'm like, yeah, man, like I eat them like at least 3 times a week. And I was like, holy shit, I don't think, yeah, it's just not like a thing in other countries. It's one of them weird food things that's such a staple for us. But yeah, you tell people, I guess England and Scotland, that sort of thing, they're probably a bit more pie-ish. But yeah, meat pie, meat party pie.
We've gone from toys to pie, folks. Meat pies, sorry. That's what you've decided this Saturday evening. The television, because of COVID, has gotten so bad that you're like, babe, tonight these 2 dudes were talking about meat pies in Australia. I was fucking floored. I was flabbergasted. Some of the best content I've seen all week.
International cuisine.
My goodness, man. That's funny. Out of curiosity, dude, like, what would you, like, do you say that your stuff comes from, because somebody was asking me this earlier, they're like, Tiddy Bean's, it's kind of strange that he mixes the horror with the Star Wars stuff. Is he into horror flicks? Is he into all that? And I was like, well, I'm pretty sure he likes the Super 7 reaction, or the reaction figures. But where does that link kind of come from, man? Like, what kind of caused you to want to link those 2 universes?
I think I've always been like a massive horror fan, like always loved horror movies. And then probably in the past couple of years started to get way more into like the Universal monsters and that kind of like the older sort of ones. But I've always loved all types of horror. And I don't think it kind of wasn't it didn't feel like an intentional thing of like, cool, I'm going to mash these 2 worlds. It was just kind of like because they were kind of like going separately for a while. There'd be like the little Frankensteins and Frankenrots, and then there'd be separate sort of Star Wars kit bashers. And then Stalker was probably the first one to really kind of cement them together. And yeah, it kind of wasn't like, oh, I'm going to mash these together. It was kind of like, what head's going to fit in this hole the best? That's kind of, it sounds a little like anticlimactic, but kind of which kind of head is going to look good. And I think at the time, I had Frankenstein, I had the Mummy. I didn't have too many Star Wars heads, and they were often too big to sort of fit in. I think I tried Lobot. I think originally the plan was to have Lobot in there, and because he's got like that bit, it would sort of like kind of go down, but then it didn't look that good. And then I think I put the Frankenstein in there, and it just kind of went, oh, all of a sudden I've kind of got this mashup. And then it just kind of worked. And then like just how well the Super 7 reaction figures and Star Wars figures, just the scale of the limbs, it just kind of started to really work. But yeah, I really dig the 2 kind of genres, and to kind of have that, you know, shit like Dead Space, like all those sort of like video games where it's that sort of like horror, what's it called? Like Event Horizon. It's like celestial horror, but it's like space horror. What am I trying to say? Not necessarily like Alien, obviously, but yeah, just that kind of really weird, twisted space horror shit is really cool. And there's always like cool armor and stuff, and there's like special space suits and all that. It's very, very Star Wars. Well, kind of,
this could easily fit into like a Knights of the Old Republic, in my opinion.
Yeah. See, and then yeah, I forgot what I was going to say. Sorry.
Couple 5-year-olds.
Even like cyborgs and shit as well. Like always loved, you know, cyborg looks. I think I've got one here. This is like an early sculpt on a Dengar leg. So it was basically what happened with the Mummy Stalker, with that kind of like, you know, gear, you know, leg brace kind of thing. And Yeah, I sculpted this on and it just didn't sort of go anywhere. Also because Dengar's legs are quite short, so it doesn't quite lend himself to like the normal, I don't know, say Frankenstalker sort of height. It's still a cool sculpt, and it's still sitting there. But, oh, hey, that's my pie. Sorry, the cat's just eating on So yeah, all the cyborg shit, and then even sort of sculpting cyborg things, it just kind of didn't quite hit me that well. I still want to sort of do something on Frankenstein head, but I don't know. I'm a bit sus with sculpting. Like I'll go through phases of like doing it, wanting to do it, and then completely dropping out because something just didn't work that well. And that's probably the most sensitive area of Tiddy Bean that I'm not as confident is that sort of like those custom sculpts and also trying to use just like found bits, like on the Mummy Stalker leg, that little, I don't know, piston thing, whatever it is. That's like a bit of Lego, and I can't remember what else. I try and sort of like think in there.
So it's funny to me that you just mentioned the Lego because one of your original figures, you went Lego Peg, man.
Yeah.
That was fucking a cool idea to me because if anybody's familiar with the Lego Peg I'm talking about, it comes out like a little top hat at the end, and there should be, I believe, 2 slits to allow it to actually kind of like fold in on itself. Yeah. Oh, there you go.
Yeah, so these are some old ones. These are a bit buckled and stuff now, but yeah, so that was I think that was a tip from, I think it might have been Toy Boy. Just kind of like, I think in his videos it was to like replace your, you had a vintage Star Wars that had the peg broken off, so he's like, you can use Lego pegs. So I was like, cool, I guess I'll like articulate things, but then there's a real balance between the type of resin that you use, say for the torso versus the arm versus the plastic that the actual Lego pegs are made out of. So they're they're good, and once they kind of like slip in, but over time they'll just like crack and fracture and kind of go to shit. So there's a couple of old ones that survived, but I think you need to have such an exact, you need to be pretty good at like doing a good hole to have it sort of fit nicely. Then you've got to glue the other side of the peg into the arm. It was good before like getting magnets, and it was, I don't know, I can't remember if I've sold a couple of early ones like this, but at the same time, it was an awesome way to be like, holy shit, I can put arms on them now without having to glue them, or doesn't matter if I like kill the pegs on the arm, just put these bits of Lego in there. And I think you might have got one in the package there. I can't remember.
Looking at him right now.
Oh, yeah,
again, like
Pinkus. You got Pinkus.
Because again, like you've evolved so much, man, and it's interesting to me how much you used to paint some of your old figures.
Yeah, I used to really do like that. That one can't really good. I've got a whole. They're all actually scattered in front of me under the kitchen table / workbench. I've got pink here as well. Yeah, I don't know. I just went through a phase of like, I think I got the model paints and really wanted to get sort of the. So I think I did this one. I did Pinkus, and there was maybe another one, but it would just only be painting like selected areas, like just showing restraint and just kind of, which I really kind of liked the look. And then I think from here, I think I ended up painting a couple I didn't like. So that's when I started doing like the black washes over the top, and the Born of Filth guys kind of came in but yeah, some of these just work really well with like the different pinks and then the red. It's just like, that's cool. And yeah, Pinkus worked really well. And yeah, but then it just kind of, I sort of went off trying to paint too many, and it just I couldn't quite capture that. So then I think I kind of bailed on painting, unless I was, doing a black wash, which kind of hides and helps blend a lot of the contrasting colors. Really paranoid if I put colors in there that just don't mix. It's just really jarring and annoying. So, but I'm trying to do more of the painted stuff, and like I showed you before, I've got 3 or so Mummy Stalkers that'll have that grimy bit with the paint. I've got I don't know where his head is. Oh, here it is.
So, last night, Burial Boba was actually, he participated in the group discussion. It's going to drop tomorrow as well. Cool. But we were talking about intent. And I love actually, as we're talking about this pegged figure, as somebody who clearly, like, I touch my toys, right? Everybody knows that. Everybody who ends up watching this far, Crumbs touches his toys. It's just how she goes. And I'm not going to mention the piece, but I do have a piece currently that I do have to fix. But I'll be totally honest. I don't think I've handled a piece more than that piece. As weird as it is, as somebody who does not make toys at all, there's times that like I'll open it up and I'll look at the piece and I'll start just looking at everything inside of it. I'll start trying to see like everything about the T pegs on the arms and the legs. And suddenly it dawned on me the one day where I was like, holy shit, this person could easily market this as the feature. Like just like how Nostalgia Toys, you build it.
Yeah.
There is something strangely satisfying when you had no part in the process. And even the one day I had a couple figures down because I was dusting a shelf, and it might have been the first time ever that I was like mixing up all the limbs and legs, and before you know it, you're just having fun.
Yeah.
Playing with your toys. You're literally just, and it's not playing, but you're just having fun all of a sudden, seeing how everything kind of works together. And,
Yeah.
yeah, I don't know, man. Barry Oboba, the reason why I brought it up is he's actually working on some Polish. Dang it. He's working on some figures, and he's talking about intent with the packaging. It's going to drop tomorrow. So he's talking about intent with packaging. I don't want to give anything away, but I think that's a fun thing. Like if you're going to touch the figure, like a lot of us were grown men who liked Legos. We liked Connect. We liked. I want to see how you did it.
I think like a big part of, I'm not even sure like with the pegs, but I often forget this, and I basically never market it, is that like basically all the interchangeable parts, like you can just, and I should sit there and be like, oh, I wonder what, like I'll do it now. Like, for instance, like the Mummy Stalker torso looks like with the long, like Pistopian Pies legs. And it's just like, holy shit, I forget to sort of, actually looks pretty good. It's good, like scale and proportion.
I think that's actually a great place for people to do a kit bash from. I've talked to Hello Radical Toys about that before. Man, if you're looking to rock a kit bash and you're kind of like, oh, I'm not really sure what I want to do for the kit bash yet, just put a whole bunch of your figures down on the ground, and before you know it, just start lumping things and see what looks cool.
Yeah, it's fun as like it's just something that, it's like there's a whole point to like why I kind of like coordinate all the magnets, but I also just kind of want people to sort of get there on their own one day and just kind of be like, oh, holy shit, it's the same, and then like hopefully they've got a few Tiddy Beans there. So yeah, like something weird like that. Wow, kind of looks, I don't know, really creepy.
I think it's the really narrowed in legs that do it. That's what does that.
Yeah.
Dark Rainbow Toys, you've got some dope pieces that have popped up. Sorry, I'm really bad for that. I see.
Dark Rainbow.
I don't mean to, but yeah, it caught me off guard. It fell upon his page just recently because, of course, I'm not gonna lie. At first, I thought, does Rainbow Yawn have a second account where you can maybe do things that aren't Motu related and nobody's gonna wonder where the heck their Scare Bears are or anything? Like, but nope. Oh, no, artist. Well, Tiddy Bean Man, and for the individuals that have stuck around watching, I think I've taken up enough of your afternoon, man.
Oh, that's all right, man. I love hanging with Crumbs. Good as talking toys and shit. Fun. And now having people like chime in and ask questions. It's been awesome. It's been rad. Luckily, you've kept an eye on the questions because I just keep talking shit but you're like onto it, so that's good.
So Toxic Fumes Toys has hopped in. I'm actually gonna do this. This blew my mind. So I'm actually gonna say, if anybody's planning on ordering from Tiddy Bean and you're for some reason hesitant on the shipping, like, admittedly over here, Crumbs has started like a weird little like, buddies will sometimes ask him like, Crumbs, man, I was looking at so and so, and I'll be like, well, sick. Like, let me know when you're gonna place an order because I wouldn't mind maybe getting it on the shipping and stuff. So like, if you've got homies that you think would dig toys, every now and then be like, yo, what do you think of my homie Tiddy Bean or all Untitled Toys? Any of these guys that they're far away, Pocket Toy Co. Do multiple orders with some homies and get a couple figures, because what blew my mind was one of my homies asked for a figure very similar to this, the Pikel Pyres, and Toxic Fumes Toys literally ended up posting that he ended up being the individual to get this. Now, why that blows my mind is that we're both in Ontario, Canada. the fact that for some reason, two Ontario Canadians that are literally like driving distance in an afternoon apart just needed like this color palette of pickle pyre.
Exactly that one.
And don't get me wrong, I actually I understand that there's differences. The teals are a little bit different, the blues a little bit different. Got to make sure that everybody's got their own. Actually, you know what? And anybody who's an artist or a creative or a collector, please chime in the comments because I would love to know one-offs. And actually, B to the J, you're but then like, and I'm not saying he's a one-off, but I'm just curious. When you do a figure and you do make it a one-off, how do you navigate that? What's that? What is that territory?
So you froze for a second there. So I don't actually know if you're speaking to me or if this is sort of to the community. One way around it, I get around it, is I've stopped marking things as one-offs, but also telling, say, I'm doing a acolyte commission at the moment, and sort of said, and they asked for similar colors as one of the last ones. So I think what I've done, unfortunately, I really wish I had the last one here. I've got photos, but I'm like, oh, it doesn't look as good. But this one is actually different. It comes with a bit of a different accessory. So yeah, it's really hard. I kind of stopped. Well, actually, a good example of something that will be one-off will be these. So the blood drips, I will probably do different colored resin or different colored pigment on the inside, but I wouldn't be doing any more blood drip see-through ones. I'm going to try and make that like an exclusive kind of thing, and then maybe in 6 months' time do like another sort of like I was thinking like toxic drip, so then it would be sort of like, you know, fluoro green drips, and try and get a good contrast of resins and sort of make it like something that comes out every 6 months or a year. But within that, there's a lot of kind of, yeah, there's a lot of issues, because sometimes people really want, like, can I have another one of those? And I haven't really had to do it much yet and be like, no, sorry. I think there's kind of things you can do around it, but yeah, it's definitely going to come up, and I'm, yeah, sort of dreading it, to be completely honest, because it's a really, really tricky area, because it's kind of like a one-off. Sometimes it can be just really sort of straight up, like it's a completely same design, but a different kind of color. And yeah, I don't know. It's super tricky. I don't know what other people kind of feel about it. But basically, I just kind of stopped marking things as one-offs because, I don't know, I don't find them particularly, like, I feel like a one-off has to be quite good and great. And like, you know, this is a one-off. Like, this took fucking ages to do. And some of the things that I'm sort of putting out, I'm like, look, this actually, I don't feel that this is like super exclusive, and, you know, I couldn't possibly do this again. The reason to not sort of do these as commissions, they're fucking hard to do. Like, to get that blood going in the right directions and stuff. Like, sometimes it's just like, actually, it's too hard. So this is going to be a one-off, so I don't actually have to make it ever again. That's probably a good idea.
I'm gonna keep it going one more. I'm sorry, man. But I just noticed that SSFG Design logged in. They were part of the discussion yesterday about packaging, and we're talking about one-offs right now. You just mentioned the blood drips. Yep. Those are it. That's all. They're gonna be one-offs. What I find interesting, though, actually, is as you're talking about that, I would say the packaging for that is also a little bit more unique, because you don't normally, well, one, you don't normally use just the clamshell type pop and open.
Yeah.
But two, there's a pretty special like design that you've actually attached to the inside part of that.
Yeah. So I haven't. Yeah, this is a reveal. So on the back.
Sorry.
Like, no, it's good. I plan to like flog this anyway. Yeah. So on the back, yeah, basically personalized little kind of backers for it. So that's the whole. I guess that's a sample of the whole finished package. So not on a card, not in a bag. Wanted to sort of I didn't actually think about it too much before I was talking before, but yeah, definitely like the packaging being quite unique. So on the back, you've obviously got, you know, it's a photo of the figure inside, you've got the name, and then you've got like the origin. So this is like the whole Pickle Pyre's stupid story. Luckily, you can just read it. Whereas like the Frankenstalker one, there's a Frankenstalker one. It's pretty short. But then on the inside is, I should take the character out. On the inside is a bit of a Tiddy Bean. It's basically a painting. I think I showed it in the artist interview that we did. So I took a photo and just kind of put that in because I needed something else. And so that little design is now going to be on the backers, like the carded backers. See, I don't have any here.
But that, in my opinion, is why that becomes part of the special. So yeah. I don't have a Stalker lore on my packaging. I can always go to the Etsy store so long as he makes them. I can screenshot the story, I guess, and glue it on the back. But technically, the moment that he stops making Frankenstalkers and that's not on the Etsy store, or you decide to change the description, I don't have that origin story anymore. It's like you've now changed what's canon in my collection.
Yeah, kind of, I guess. I don't know.
I'd say personally, I really hope that you plan on signing the backs of those, man.
Wow, actually, that's a really good thing, and I will, because I sign my carded figures. I'm not sure if that's something that people know. And I think the only time, I think Earth to Kentucky, it's the first time I realized, oh shit, why didn't I take photos of this and show people? So if you go to Earth to Kentucky's website, they've got a Frankenstalker, and you can see like it's a red one with a yellow card. Then on the back, you can see it's got the Tiddy Bean sticker and signature. Yeah, and I think, you're dead right. Like numbered and signed ones of these. Oh, got to show the same one every time. Can't be dropping everything. Yeah, but that means, it means I have to find somewhere to sign it, maybe in the back. Because like squeezing all this info onto this card was a little bit annoying. And look, I've had the figures actually done for a little while, but getting around to this has been a little bit time consuming, I think. But yeah, like the other day, I had to put a date on it. I was like, nah, this needs to be finished. And I've teased them enough, and people like message me about them. And it's just one of those weird things. Like I'll do like 3/4 of the project, and then it'll just kind of like sit there for like a month. And then all it'll take is like glue a couple of heads in and do the lightsabers. And then it's sort of like, oh, good to go. It's like, why was I procrastinating so long for something that people have interest in? All I need to do is these tiny little things, but it's just like, it's not the right time. But it's going to be the right time in about 5 days. So 19th of August. Yeah. 19th of March, probably around this time. So that'll be Australian time. So for people in US and New South Crumbs, it'll be the 18th of March, the day before. Not that I'm selling on this year comes, but yeah, I'm going to have to like put in comments and be like, because people are keen on these. And I'm like, I don't want you to miss it, thinking that people still think that I live in America and sort of ask, why is your postage so much? And I'm like, because I live in Australia. They're like, oh shit. So
leave the poor guy alone with the postage, okay? He doesn't choose the postage rates. Leave him alone.
Yeah, unfortunately, I don't get to choose that. And this was actually what I kind of want to do. I really want to explore like cheaper postage routes and different ways of getting the stuff over. So part of kind of doing certain figures in different packaging, like a smaller kind of durable kind of package like this. It could be really interesting to sort of see if that's going to make a difference. But I've tried and I'm getting nowhere. I'm going to have to go to I'm also really sketchy on going to like private postage companies and stuff when I'm shipping overseas. If it was like local, it wouldn't be too bad, but I don't know about, because for one thing, people don't just pay a bit for the postage. The figures aren't cheap, in my opinion. I know they can be competitively priced, but I don't feel that they're cheap. So I want to ensure that, the stuff that people see on the other side of the world actually arrives, because, they pay good money for this, and that's a service that they're, on.
I would say, though, there's sometimes you can play the cheeky, funny part. So, for instance, it came up earlier. We never really talked on it, but the over-posting. Sometimes, like, our egos worry, am I going to post too much? Am I going to come off like I'm bombarding all of Instagram? Or, oh my goodness, if I tag so-and-so, is it going to seem like I'm like fishing for them to share it? Like, oh no, like I've messaged you before being like, hey, I tagged you, but don't feel like you have to share it. I was just tagging you because I figured, well, that way they can click on it. Because I got worried of somebody being like, okay, does he want me to share this now? Like, and you're like, I was just trying to tag you so they can find you easier. So I find that that's often very intimidating and a little bit scary. But you were talking about, oh my goodness, we've been talking about too much. Um,
like yeah, kind of about like, and it
Packaging.
can be really hard, like with the
In terms of
sharing.
protecting them. But
Sorry.
being cheeky, I think you could easily, the one day you had said, I shared one of your posts and you were like, thank you, but no reshare for you. And I loved it because personally, I have had those moments where I know I do it to people because I tag them in my story and they probably get that message being like, hey, so and so tagged you. And it's so easy to just click that little like share again.
Yeah.
And then I'll often be kind of like, oh, I'm sorry. Like I wasn't doing that. So you felt like you had to share it. So I even kind of joked with you where I was like, dude, that was actually hilarious. And if you pull like that kind of cheekiness, so I would even say, if anybody asks you about the shipping, I would start saying to them, oh, dude, not a problem. You let me know when you're going to arrive, and I will have it ready for you on the day that you show up.
I'll even
And,
put it in
and
the
that
box
way
for
it'll
you,
just kind
but
of, but just be maybe a little cheeky, but in a funny way. And even just put like maybe like a little like smiley blushing face where it's kind of like, hey, like, I'm sorry the shipping sucks, but like, dude, like I'm like no sarcasm. Like I'm happy to package it and be ready to hand it to you if you're coming to Australia, like Melbourne, like I'll do it. Let's do it, man. I'd love to meet a collector.
I should put pick up available on my Etsy, just like, yeah, pick up available. It's
Yeah.
in Melbourne, Australia. Like, what's the issue? But no, it's
You
just
know, there might be people who they're like, yeah, wait a minute, how close is this guy? I bet I could drive there. And then they'll see it and they'll be like, oh, that's the shipping.
yeah.
And then they'll find you funny. Barbarian Rage. I'll be honest, I didn't have a face to put to the individual at first. And I saw these posts that would be like, sell your firstborn child, cash in your Bitcoin, buy my toy. And you're like, who is this guy? And then you see Barbarian Rage and you hear him talk about toys and suddenly you're like, I'm in love. You're a
Yeah.
friggin' sarcastic dude. You've got a good sense of humor. Yeah.
So cool.
And it,
Watching the Earth Kentucky Toy Division show with him as well. That was so fucking cool to watch. I could have watched that shit all day. It was really, really nice to just kind of see that. It was cool just to see sort of like, you know, a show like that. And then
I loved his enthusiasm. Personally, I love that, man. I get excited about toys. And it's not even, I don't even mean to. But there's times I'm editing shit and I know where to lie. I'm editing it and I'll catch myself the first damn thing I do with the toy is it touches my mouth. And I'm just like, and I'm usually pretty good when I'm with interviewing style or with a person. I'm like, don't be a freak. Don't be a freak. But yeah, there's times I'm editing. I'm like, I don't remember doing that. Like, dude, that really, it'll be like, and it's so instinctive. It'll be so trippy how it'll be like, oh yeah, yeah. And you're just kind of like, oh, why? Um, so personally, when I see somebody else who's just excited about it, I mentioned it earlier, like B to the J. I got excited when I saw Colin C pop a Bobadrock sticker on his pot today. I know the guy's a huge collector. I know he loves your work. He was in here earlier. I'm not sure if he's still in. But again, like I get stoked about seeing toys, man. It gets my fucking rocks off. So when I saw him slapping a sticky, it was like, yes, you're making toys. Yeah, you got a pressure pot and you're rocking the drock on there. Like,
yeah, man. I can't wait to see what Colin's going to put together. Hanging for it.
pardon?
Hanging to see what Colin's going to put together. So I'm like picking like salami out of my teeth as I like try and talk. It's really kind of like forgetting that I'm actually on live. But yeah, Colin's been a massive supporter, and yeah, starting to make his own figures is going to be wild to see what he comes up with.
COVID's been very interesting in general. I'll admit, when I first came into the scene, I noticed that there was a very clear like wave 4, and then I would say that 2021 there was like wave 4.5.
Yeah.
Dom Duplessis, Ghoul of Gaba, friggin' I can't even name them all. I can't name them all because unfortunately, like it was just like out of nowhere. It was like I 1 minute it was like you knew, it was like, hey neighbor, you know, and I know your toys. They look sharp. And you kind of knew everybody. Oh, how's Bessie doing? Yeah. And then all of a sudden you're just like, what is all, who are all of you? And all of a sudden my creepy map in the other room that has red strings going from toys to pictures of people's faces to names, that just like grew to the whole room.
Yeah, yeah, it's just exploding, and it's really cool to see. It's really cool to see how hard some of these artists are coming out as well. Just like really fucking, really awesome work, and yeah, it's wild. It's a little bit kind of like, damn, it's gonna be, shit looks better than mine sometimes, but that's fucking cool. Not that I think mine look particularly cool, but yeah, there's just something about like just this another, yeah, like I said, like another wave of these artists coming out, and I guess, you know, looking at all the stuff on Instagram and just pulling and drawing from people, and, you know, and yeah, messaging, asking questions, and it's so good to see that. I think you kind of mentioned it one day. I can't remember who said it, but it was like, you know, there's nothing wrong with the world having a shitload of cool toys. Like, that's fine with me. It's more people for me to buy toys off. Like, I make them, but I also collect them a lot. So, yeah, I like seeing this stuff, and I like just kind of being able to see other people's progression rather than everyone sort of commenting on mine, which makes me cringe a little bit. But being able to kind of like watch dudes kind of doing it and doing the same sort of things that I did, or doing things completely differently and going, shit, I should have done that, is really, really, really good feeling.
Man, I would actually say I saw a post on one day and it just like alarm bell started ringing like yes, where it basically even said it's like, you know, you've got fans that are just quiet fans and you have no idea that throughout a day they're too embarrassed or shy to comment on your post or like your post, but you're fueling their day. And the reality is, I know there's times I've even like dropped in a chat where you're like, yo, I'm sorry if I'm spamming too many pictures, and you're like, bring on more, more toy pictures. Because the reality is, when you have 5 seconds away from work for a second, even Epoxy Crusader the other day, he had shared a thing he had been working on. And I was like, I am so sorry, man. I just got a chance to look at this. That is sick. And he's like, no, on the contrary. Like, if you're at work and you're busy, like, I'm sorry. And I'm like, no, fuck it. This is me coming on here, filling my gas tank up for a second.
Yeah, man.
So I can go back into the grind. Because the reality is that I need to see some color. I need to see some creativity and expression and balls deep passion. And then fucking that inspires me then to be like, okay, back to the grind.
No, I'm silent fans for all these other artists. I'm probably not silent, but because I'll kind of comment. But I love, yeah, like it's the same thing for me. Like to kind of, yeah, to know that exists for some of my work is a pretty odd and unbelievable feeling. Like it's a really awesome feeling. But then, yeah, it's a sort of to get my cup filled by other artists to use one of your sayings, Crumbs, is really cool. Like, you know, people that Tiddy Bean Toys, especially just recently, like I love the marbles, love his color combinations. I remember there was some weeding.
4-color marblings, man. Yeah. I'm sorry, 4-color marblings. The dude's only been doing this since like November, I think. 4-color marblings.
Loving it. Love the druid. Love the. I've got to jump on and see if he's got anything left because that's
very good. Dude, yeah, there was. Okay, I know he just made. Sorry, this is what happens. Like, just talk toys, man. This is how the last one ended up 4 hours. Everybody, if you're wondering how we ended up talking for 4 hours, there were toys everywhere because Tiddy was in his collection room. So every time we'd have a moment like this, he'd get up and grab a toy, and it was mayhem. Yeah, dude. He made 2 more toys today, or 2 more of the druids today. The new druid is so dope. The Fu Manchu is like, oh, dude, I love how just like geometric.
Yeah, I love one. The kind of the squareness to it, the texture of them as well. You kind of like, it's like the mask in the mask. It's kind of got that like woody kind of texture, but they're resin, but then they come up looking kind of like sewn. So I've got oh man, I'm gonna forget what it's called. Battle droids. Fuck, what's it called?
Oh, the Droid Foundry.
Yes. Yeah,
you got the painted one by him.
Yeah,
man. Okay, the Droid Foundry is absolutely insane. I'm gonna be honest. Every time I go to his page, it links to a Facebook page. I have no idea how you acquire unless you've got the balls to just reach out to him. His paint-ups are superb. Oh my goodness.
I actually
those always little robots.
Really don't want to take it out of the packet, to be honest. I got these and I'm like, for some reason, I haven't taken them out. I will at some point. But yeah, this was
Yeah, I get that, man.
Just that mix of, yeah, is it wood? Is it like stone? Like what could it be? And they come with like the little charm, kind of like little necklace kind of things. That's also such a cool little touch, having those little beaded kind of things. And that one comes up. Yeah, there it is. Just such an awesome touch. But yeah, the combination of Xenodemon and their Droid Foundry, like that's just fucking cool.
Yeah, I didn't realize that they were such good friends, and so actually Xenodemon Toys has a couple of the Droid Foundry pieces, and I didn't realize because I've been looking at them for a while. I thought they must have been like when you look at them, I thought for sure they must have metal and stuff, but the fact that that's all just weathered paint up,
yeah, sick, so good.
take it over. Dude, and actually, Sinister Sigil Studio, as we're kind of talking about like microfigures, monolithic. If I remember correctly, you were working on some big mimps, and maybe I'm wrong. Maybe it's not mimps. It might have been one of the other ones. Maybe muscles, but I thought it was maybe some of the mimps that you were actually looking to blow up. So definitely drop that too, because I've been creeping your page, man. And let's face it, at the end of the day, this is what's dope about the toy world. I'm looking at a table. We're talking to Sinister Sigil Studio about some mimps or process he's working on, while holding a magnetic articulated 3.75, and I've got a Cap Vans Forever sculpted figure sitting there. The reality is once you get into this world, like you don't have like a type of figure. You just love it all.
Yeah.
Hi, double XL Mimps. Oh,
what?
Past tense. Dude, I remember the last time that we were chatting, I was in a live, and you'd actually even said, you're like, dude, just wait till you see what I'm working on. XL Mimps. I don't know, I must have been sleeping on that drop, because I do not recall those dropping. Tiddy, I could talk toys with you all friggin' day, man. I'm going to let you go. Because I feel like it's probably secretly been like an hour or two. So I'm going to let you go on with your day. And everybody who joined in,
thanks,
I appreciate it.
Thanks for organising and like facilitating and that kind of thing, and thanks for people that joined in and actually watched this, because we just crapped on for fucking ages. But yeah, I hope people found it interesting, and yeah, thanks again.
No, thank you, man. Again, like you know what? I feel bad that it took December to get the unboxing up there. And then on top of that, the video didn't quite, in my opinion, capture the luster that is Tiddy Bean Toys.
Okay.
So I'm glad that we were able to sit here and have them all see like the magic of what is the magical Tiddy Bean toy.
Wow, the luster. I don't know if I've ever been associated with luster before, but I'll take that. And yeah, I hope people get a bit more of an insight. And yeah, and I actually want to kind of do more jump on lives as well, just while I'm like working, just for, yeah, a bit of that, like, because like I said, I suck at like taking photos of the process, but you know, people kind of dig that, you know, watching you kind of do your thing. So I do want to get into that a little bit more. A lot of the time, it's just by the time I'm in the headspace to do that, it's like, cool. And I'm like, fuck. Most of like the people that would watch this are all like tucked away in bed. So it's about a time zone thing, and also where I'm at during the day. But yeah, I really want to get on some more stuff like that, because I don't know, it's cool if I can kind of be making something and then pull something out of the pot and, you know, people sort of see it. I don't know, I've done it before, and yeah, it was fun.
It's like a special little treat, man. It's like a private viewing.
Yeah, pretty much. Because, yeah, I don't know, there's a lot of shit that people would find interesting that it's second nature to me. I'm like, oh, I've got to do this. I'm like, holy shit, film that. And I'm like, why? It's like, so many people are like, oh, I just want to see how you do it. I'm like, it's not that exciting. It's just me crouched over mixing things. But yeah, there's people out there that want to see that shit. So that's cool.
For me, it's accountability. I'm going to be totally honest. The one day where I ended up going on and doing some painting, I put off painting so many times. I kept on putting it off. There's always like, oh, I don't have time. And then the one day I was like, you know what? Fuck it. I'm going to make the time. I'm going to hop on live. I'm going to paint.
Yeah.
And then suddenly when you realize there's some people watching you paint, you're kind of like I even said, like, I remember I was prepping my bases for a while.
Yeah.
I sat there for probably like 5 minutes being like, anybody got a recipe for the He-Man flesh tone? And then finally I was like, all right, fuck it. I guess I just gotta bite the bullet. And you just do it. So anybody who's watching this and has thought about doing a live, do those lives, man. At the end of the day, people will tune in. I watch them while I'm working some days.
So do I.
And if nobody tunes in,
Yeah.
at least you were working. You were doing what you wanted to be doing.
You got something done.
Fuck yeah.
Yeah, that's it. And yeah, and they're awesome to chuck on while you're working as well. That's a big thing that I like to do. But yeah, cool.
30. Thanks, everybody. Have a great one.
Thanks, dudes.
Peace, man.
Gotcha.